So welcome back, everybody. We've had a short break, a quick cup of coffee, refresh ourselves. We're ready to start judging again, so I'm going to hand straight over to John and Anne to carry on with the judging.
Oh, well, we're starting the second half with an absolutely cracking image of this owl. The detail in the feathers is absolutely fantastic, even the lighter ones. Those eyes are absolutely amazing, crispy sharp, as is the beak. So the bird itself is absolutely super. I imagine it was horrible conditions when the photographer was capturing this bird. So I thought perhaps I should be sympathetic, but in the end I wasn't. I do like the plant with the lumps of snow on the right hand side. I think that works quite well, just to give added interest in the picture. But what I really didn't like was that grey blob, circular blob to the left of the owl's neck. And you know, it's a nature shot, but you are allowed to do a few things to it, and particularly, you know, maybe you were all rushing to enter this competition, so you just put in what you had, and so you didn't want to alter it. But I would have got rid of that grey blob. And the other thing that I found a little bit strange, but I'm quite prepared to believe is possibly blowing snow or whatever, is that the snow in the front of the bird is ever so slightly out of focus, and it appears to be very, very close to him. So I'm not 100% sure why that happened. Nevertheless, I think it's a fantastic bird, and I'm going to keep it. This one I looked at long and hard, because it's really actually very, very dark and moody. And it did make me wonder, because the light was so fantastic, or appeared to be so fantastic on the water. I just wondered whether there'd been a bit of fiddling and diddling going on, and a sense of unreality. But in the end, I thought this was a super image. I love the tiny figure with his surfboard, as the author said, waiting for the right moments. And I like the breaking waves. I think the figure is positioned perfectly in relation to the headland beyond, and I do like the dark thundery sky. It's got, you know, there's clouds in it, but they're not overpowering, and the picture is lifted by the white horses of the waves. So I'm going to keep this one back. Where are my lions? Yeah, these lions, I began to worry that I was being a bit over generous with, not over generous, but that I was ending up with a lot of high marks, and my initial instinct was to mark this one exceptionally high, purely because of the rain, the golden light catching the lions. But when I started to look at it a bit more carefully, I thought the second lion in, from the left, is absolutely beautiful, and the lion to her left is beautiful as well, or the cub, if it's, I think it is a cub. And you've got some beautiful rim lighting, and you've even got rim lighting on the cub to the mother's left shoulder. But when it got to the right hand side of the picture, the two cubs were kind of merging together quite a lot, and that sort of detracted from the image for me. So the storytelling of the rain shower is absolutely brilliant, but the positioning of the lions is not actually in the photographer's favour. And even more certainly than with the horses, you can't sort of say, oh, you just get out of the picture, the two on the right, will you please? And you don't necessarily get the chance to hang around and let them rearrange themselves. But I did like the lions. I thought the lighting was fantastic, and I thought the way you'd captured the rain worked well as well. And I just love the sort of golden ambience of African light. But it was the two right-hand lions that really did it for you. So I gave you 17. This image is very pale and very pastely, and when it's enlarged, it goes almost a little bit too pastely, but it does represent that area of China, the little houses, the early morning mist, the sun rising and just colouring the sky. And because of the way that I'm now seeing this image, it's actually much smaller than it appeared when I initially looked at it. And it does work really small. And so, whereas I do like it, I love it as a PDI, I think it would probably make a super print as long as you didn't make it too big. So if you've got paper, or when this is all over, I would certainly encourage you to use this one as a print. But I like it anyway as a projected image, and therefore I'm going to hold it back. Yes. I think the photographer here was unfortunate because he doesn't seem to have any lighting. Could be a she, of course, but forgive me, it's a generic he. And I think the trees needed a bit of lighting on them. I do like the way you've positioned yourself. So we've got the three large foreground trees, and then in the gaps between them, we've got two much smaller ones. So that works well. And we've even got from the furrows, or whatever they are, the channels in the sand or the rock, that we've got a sort of kind of leading line, or all being that it's a little bit sort of bendy, and it's S's and it's going round and round. But if you follow from the bottom left along to the right, and then it goes back, and then you go right again, and then you get taken behind the hump, and that leads you to the main subject, the trees. But there's the lack of lighting on the trees, and I think the fact that the sand dunes are not strongly lit, and they're really quite a dull colour. So all in all, it's the lack of lighting that I think killed this picture for me. I'm sorry about that, because, as I say, I love what you've done with the arrangement. What I would suggest is converting it to monochrome, because I think it would probably do quite well as a monochrome. But I gave it 15. Yes, I do apologise. Started doing what I did last time. I go and then I go yes. This scene, it's very attractive. It's got some attractive lighting. I think compositionally it leaves a little bit to be desired, because I don't think the water in the bottom left adds anything to it. So I probably would have chopped off the bottom of the image. But I think my biggest problem is that the strongest lighting is on the central tree, and it is very central. And to my way of thinking, it's dividing the picture into two. So it's just a two sides picture. there has been some special treatment given to it, which has affected the leaves on the trees, and I quite like that effect. But I wasn't quite so keen on what had happened with the bluebells. So this one got 15. This is a super image. It brings back memories for me of visiting the Atacama Desert and seeing vicuña. They're very, very shy animals. They're the smallest of the llama group of animals, and to get one just standing here, almost perfectly positioned, looking out over the lake is great. Got some great hillside behind, and I think the square image it's absolutely perfect for it. It works really well because it puts the vicuña in a strong position in the frame. And because of the way I am, loving sort of pastel-y colours and not too many of them, again, that works exceptionally well for me. So I'm going to hold this one back. Where are you? Yes, this has incredible quality. It's a macro picture. Again, I think the square format suits it, but the detail and the sharpness, and again, the just the not too many colours and such complementary colours, and such quality overall in the photography, and a very, very sympathetic background. It's a super image. There's absolutely nothing bad I could say about it. And well, put very simply, I'm going to hold it back because I love it. Yeah, I'm sorry about these pauses. I'm just trying to find them on my list. This is a kind of different view of a very familiar building. And I liked what you've done with it. I liked the skylight and the shadows it was casting on the white walls. I like the fact that you've gone in really, really close. So basically all we had was the window and the skylight. But it didn't quite sit comfortably with me. And I kept looking and wondering why. And I think, again, it's a bit of a half and halfy picture. Just because you've presented it as a portrait. Maybe if you presented it as a square, so we had more of the skylight, or maybe, I don't know, maybe if you cropped a bit off the right of the image. But it does feel that we've got building on the right, skylight on the left. And then, of course, I started looking around, and now I'm getting really, really nitpicky. But you've got some dirty glass work down there on the left-hand side, right near the left edge of the image, which would have been easy to clone out. So I gave that one 16. There really is nothing to say about this one except that it's absolutely gorgeous. The bird is gorgeous. His eyes sharp, his beak sharp, his tail sharp. We've got great detail in the feathers. We've got a highlight in the eye. We can see his little feet clutching onto the branch. And compositionally, you know, he's slightly over to the left, just on this twig, with a completely blank blue background, which is so complementary to the bird's feathers. So this is another image that's definitely a keeper for me. We are on a bit of a run at the moment. Old Joseph, I found, was another compelling image. I said in another one that maybe I'd have preferred the subject to be looking at the photographer, but in this particular image, I feel that old Joseph is kind of, he's reflecting on his life, but it's presented in monochrome, but we've got so many details in the various shades of black and grey. Great expression on his face, fabulous light in the eye, and again, it's the sort of picture that I find it very difficult to fault. Perhaps the only things that I might have faulted, if I was having to choose winners and losers instead of just giving marks, I might have said, oh, well, there's that little bright highlight, bottom left corner, could have been toned down. And I might also have said that bright light on the back of his left shoulder. But really, that is such a nitpicky attitude to take. And as I say, today we're all trying to enjoy ourselves, I hope, and I hope everybody is. And so I'm going to hold this one back. Gosh, we really are on a roll. This image, maybe it's put in by somebody who knows me, because it's got my desired, simple, limited colour range. We've got a really interesting rock. It's a very interesting shape with that little peak. We've got the swirling water just catching a little bit of light and going a little bit blue. And then with what I presume are waves coming in behind. And then the shoreline again, with a few rocks, but with the vignette effect. What we've really got is an artistic pastel image going on here. And so I absolutely, I just thought it was fantastic. Again, it works as a PDI, but I would really suggest you do it as a print on art paper, because I think it would look absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to keep it back. This is another great image. The willet walking into the foamy waves coming on shore. The bird has got everything it needs. It's sharp. It's got some lovely lighting on the feathers, and I just love its position in the frame, and it's quite small. So we're getting a bit of storytelling going on here as well. It's not just a willet, it's a willet, and there's a crashing sea, and you sort of think, it's not a very big bird, so the waves, when does it decide to jump away, and so it doesn't get washed away by the waves. So I can read things into this, and I enjoy that in a picture. So I'm going to hold this one back. Mr. Fox. This image has immediate impact, because the fox's face is so strong. Those beautiful eyes, the whiskers, and the whole of the face and the ears are super sharp, with some lovely lighting. And the fact that the fox is peering around this gorse bush, it just adds a bit to the story, tells us where he might be. And then you start looking around and you sort of think, I can understand that you couldn't get enough depth of field. I can also understand that this might have been a grab shot. But when I'm sort of comparing images, as always, I have to find the problems as well as the bits I love. So the face is fantastic. I'm much less keen on the twigs or grasses or whatever they are, the highlights in the background. but cracking picture of a fox, really, really gorgeous. It's another wish it was mine image, but preferably with a better background. So I'm going to give Mr. Fox 16. Chilling, yeah, I sort of like the expression on the man's face. I thought that the lighting was really very sympathetic to his dark skin, because you can see his eyes, and his eye sockets are not in deep shadow. In fact, there aren't any horrible shadows anywhere. But I didn't know whether this was a grab shot, or whether the photographer had actually engaged with the subject, because we've got a bit of messiness to the left of him, which is fine. That's probably part of his property, his bag or whatever. And then I started looking at the back of the image and thinking, what does the right hand side add to the story? And the fact is that because the background is in quite sharp focus, we've got a lot of leaves, we've got a lot of scrappy branches. And so minimizing them would help enormously. So I would suggest that either you tone the background down, or even that you chop off part of the right hand side, because we've got the story, we've got him sitting on a rock. I think he's by a stream, but I'm not sure. Looks like it. But we could get all that without having those bright green leaves and all those scrappy branches on the right hand side. And then I would just tone down the other branch, green leaves top left as well. So I gave him 15. This picture is a really good one of a heron. It's beautifully sharp, and it's got quite a bright background, but it is a simple background, in the sense that all the leaves are the same shape and they're quite large. We've got a beautiful reflection of the heron as well. I assume he's just standing there in the water, waiting for a fish to come by. And as a picture, really, I can't fault it. That my problem was really that, I'd already seen some stunning other animal shots, and in comparison, the heron was just a little bit static. And I know that's what herons do, but it just didn't have the impact of some of the other images that we've seen. So I ended up giving it 15. The snook, where are you, snook? Yes, this is a sort of, I know it isn't a Constable landscape, but it sort of reminds me of a John Constable painting. Um, I love the reeds, I love the building, the light on the building's great, and we've got some dry grass as well, which just sort of tones in, matches with the colour of the building. So it's a very painterly picture, and it worked well for me. The only thing was that I didn't know whether I needed quite as much of the left hand side or quite as much of the bottom as you gave me. So it's a judgment, but I think I would have preferred a little bit off the bottom, and a chunk, say, it's hard to say, isn't it? Probably about, I don't know, a sixth or an eighth of the image off the left hand side. And then I think it would be even stronger. But anyway, I'm going to hold it back. Milo, my friend Milo. I do find it difficult to judge dogs, particularly when they're cuddly and fluffy and really sweet looking like this one. I love the fact his expression, which is kind of just because of the way he's lying. He's clearly having a good old rest, and he was probably having a nap. And now he's got some photographer lying in front of him and pointing a camera, and you can almost see him looking. You know, he's got his left eye half open, but he's got to be alert because he's got to know what's going on, so the right eye's fully open. And I just feel there's a story in there, and the dog is just wondering what on earth's going on. And he's a beautiful dog, but I was tempted to give him an awful lot of marks just because he's a beautiful dog. But you've got to look at the picture, and I don't know what it is, but if you go up from the inner part of his left eye, perhaps a bit further out, but there's a big chunk of fur all standing up in a sort of kind of table mountain shape. I'm not doing very well with my descriptions here. And then behind it, there's a blob of something. And I don't know whether it's a wall plug or whether he's got something in his fur, but it's like all distractions. Once I'd seen it, I couldn't stop looking at it. So if you could get rid of that, then Milo would be lovely. But as it is, he's going to get 18 points. Rainbow spout. Yes, as I understand it, there's a huge amount of skill in producing these sort of images just to get the splash and catch it. And then I guess there's even more skill in the coloured lighting as well. The real thing was that whereas I love the colours, the turquoise and the violet and the sort of the mauve, I really didn't like the colours coming down the left-hand side. And that's a matter of personal taste. And the other thing was that whatever the water that was, or the container that was catching the water to make these splashes, just being bright white, that also didn't work for me, I'm afraid. So this one got 14.
And there's one more image.
Okay. Woodland light. This presentation, the seeing, the orange of the sky, which I presume is sun, well, around sunrise, and the sun's rays coming through the trees, the light on the bracken, the light on the leaves, and the almost silhouettes of some, but not all of the trunks. And it felt like a sort of magical scene, worthy of The Hobbit or possibly some of the other films. But I was still conscious of my marking and being fair. And I did think that had it been me, I know it was exceptionally difficult because of where the sun was, but if you look almost down the middle of the image, there are 2 foreground trees and then there are 2 background trees, and between them there are 2 very thin trees with a very bright white area. And I think had it been me, I would have just toned it down just ever such a little bit, not to take the brightness and lightness away from the image, but I just think it would have helped ever so slightly. So that one I'm going to keep, but it probably won't get the top mark. We'll see now.
And we have 18 images held back. I'm going to show you them on one screen in thumbnails on Lightbox. And after you've had a quick thought about what you might score them as, we will go through them individually, just these ones, for you to give a final score to.
That's, if you want to go through them now, I can tell you what the scores are going to be because I already know.
Good, okay, I will do that in a moment, about now.
Okay, before I start giving you these final scores, I just have to say that there's been some super images, and I know I've been generous at the top, but I do think that all of these images really deserved high marks. So the first one is the protective mother walrus, and she gets a 20. Sarah, just because of that wisp of hair, gets a 19. From Grandma's sewing cabinet, I absolutely adored this picture, and so it gets 20. Ploughing a lone furrow was also an image that appealed to me. It brought back happy memories, and I just found it very gentle and painterly. So that too gets a 20. Swan Lake gets a 20. Again, I loved it. Coyote gets a 20. New York Crossing gets 19. The Eagle Owl gets 19, really just because of that blob. Waiting for the right moment. Got 19. This one got 20. This one also got 20. So did the fern leaf. So does the roller. Oh, Joseph is another 20. That's a 20. The Willis is a 20. The snook is, where's the snook? Oh, I've lost the snook. 19. And Woodland Light is 19 as well. Is that the last one?
Yes, that's the last one.
Well, you'll realise from what you've been watching and just heard that I gave an awful lot of 20s. Had this been a normal competition where I was choosing winners and runners up, it would have been extraordinarily difficult to choose between the images. So I congratulate you all, Solihull and Shirley. I hope you've enjoyed that. I've certainly enjoyed looking at your images and judging for you. Thank you.
Okay, well, I hope we'll now be able to see the total score for each club.
Wow, that was close.
Well, thank you, Anne. Apologies. I suspect I've become a victim of some very harsh lighting as the morning's worn on. So I'll just cover up some of my highlights, some of my burnt out highlights there. Rest assured my hair hasn't gone completely white during the last few weeks. Well, Anne, what can I say? That was completely brilliant. None of us are experienced at using the technology in this way. Yet Anne has made this look really simple. She's a natural at this, really fabulous. Providing positive feedback for every image and constructive suggestions where appropriate. In all, it was a very relaxed manner. Anne, you showed great insight into a wide range of techniques and subjects and illustrated how you try to read an image, the emotion evoked being, just as important as the subject matter, perhaps more so. I have to say, if somebody had said to me 6 months ago, you'll be having a virtual competition using video conferencing software, I'd have thought that was a bit of a pipe dream. You'll never manage to pull that off. But I have to say, congratulations, you have. It's been fabulous. This has proved to be a superb way of maintaining the interest of both clubs. So many congratulations to Anne, and many congratulations to the team at Solihull for making this happen. I know Bob Breach, Bob Brasher, Jim, Tony, Reese, John, and Joe Monroe, they've all played an instrumental part in making this happen. And I have to say, I'm proud to be a member of both clubs. So I was going to say I was on the winning team, whatever happened today. But it proved that this wasn't really about winners and losers today. This was just a fabulous chance to enjoy the work of both clubs. And I think you'll all agree. We've seen some terrific images, and it was a great bit of fun. Brought us all a little bit closer during this difficult time. And I'm sure we'll be able to build on this. So, Anne, once again, many thanks. That was a terrific job, truly terrific. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil.
Okay, and thank you from me as well. It was Phil's just said everything that I would have said. So well done, everybody, and thanks team for making such a great job. So I think that's probably a wrap up.
Thanks everyone. That was really brilliant. Really enjoyed that.